In the previous video, we have looked at functional joints with their subtypes in detail. Now it's time for us to understand structural types of joints. We need to understand what structures make up these joints. In other words, what is the cementing material that seals the bones together? The list includes fibrous joints, cartilaginous joints, and lastly, the synovial joints. Let's understand each one in detail. The first one on the list is fibrous joints. The name itself is self-explanatory. The fibrous joints are those where the joint structure is filled with fibrous connective tissue, which means the bones are joined with the help of thick fibers. For understanding these, we take the same example as seen in the functional joints. The example of joints in the cranium fits aptly here as well. These being fibrous, they are firmly held and are unable to move. Similar example of fibrous joints include those joining the bones of the limbs. The bones of forearm, named radius and ulna, are joined by a fibrous joint. Similarly, the distal joint between the bones of legs, named tibia and fibula, is also a type of fibrous joint. Cartilaginous joints is the type we will talk about next. Cartilaginous means those having cartilage filled in the gap. Cartilage, as we know, is a connective tissue having a strong as well as a flexible structure. The best example to understand cartilage is by touching the top portion of your ears. The portion that can be bent easily but regains its original structure is the cartilage. So now can you guess where will a cartilage joint be present? Joints which move but not very much. The joints that have flexibility but to a limited extent. The same example of pubic bones in the hip joined to each other. The portion is joined by a cartilaginous tissue. Another example to explain the location of cartilaginous joints is on our vertebral column. We already know that our vertebral column is composed of 33 vertebrae. Each vertebra is joined to the other one with the help of the cartilaginous joints. That makes sure that the structure gains flexibility as well as firmness. Now we move to the last type, which is the synovial joint, the joints which are freely movable. Yes, these joints are known for having a specialized fluid called the synovial fluid in them. The fluid has a consistency like that of an egg white. But tell me, why is the fluid needed between the joints? If we can work with fibers and cartilage, then why do we need a fluid to fill the gap? Just think about it. Do the joints having fibers and cartilage move efficiently? The ones with cartilage do have movements, but those are the limited ones. Yes, the reason why we have synovial fluids in the gaps of these joints is to gain good and efficient movement. The fluid allows frictionless and effortless movements of the bones connected. The synovial joint is further divided in 6 major classes. The classification is based depending upon the structure of the joint. The 6 subtypes include the pivot joint, saddle joint, condylar joint, plane joint, hinge joint, and the ball and socket joint. Next, let's understand each type in a little more depth.